Hey everyone, I'm really excited for today's show. We just got done recording with Jennifer and what an impact she's having in so many ways. Her vision is so big for what she's doing, and you can just feel it from the discussion. And she knows what she's talking about. She's gone through an entrepreneurial journey that she's learned so much from and impacted so many. She's working with the top thought leaders in the world, people like Ben Hardy, Tony Robbins, and others, and having an impact on their business. So I think this is going to help you, whether you're a business owner, a business leader, leading your family, whatever it is. And we talk about building your vision for your business and your life and the order of that and how we should do that. She gave an awesome phrase and just comment on, what she thinks about balance. She said something like balance is, and I'll tell you right now, isn't a positive thing. So really make sure you check that out. She talks about the phases of entrepreneurial journey. She talks about how do we get our vision? How do we build it? What does the process look like? And then it was really surprising to me. We talked about at the end. It was new to me on the approach that leaders need to take to build a vision and the role that the employees play. And more importantly, what we have to do and how we get that and build conviction within our teams. So this was impactful for me. I took a lot of notes, dissecting it and figuring out what are the next steps for me. I know this is going to be impactful for you as well. Hello and welcome to the Purpose Matrix. I'm very excited for today's guest, Jennifer Hudye-Moscow. Jennifer, how are you doing today?
Excellent, Phil. Great to be here.
Well, thanks so much. So I saw Jennifer speak at an event recently, and her message really connected with me. So I wanted to share it with our listeners. So I'm really excited for today. And we're going to talk about a lot of great topics. We like to talk about purpose, but really Jennifer's going to translate that to vision. And really how she developed, her thesis around this is from her own story, which I think is always compelling and impactful. So Jennifer, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial backstory. And I know this goes back to your childhood. So tell us more about that.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm still blown away because over the last decade, I've helped thousands of entrepreneurs across all different industries through a process called Vivid Vision. But as you mentioned, it stemmed from my own journey of growing up in an entrepreneurial family in Saskatchewan, Canada. My father, my uncle, my grandfather, all entrepreneurs, specifically farmers. And so grew up in the entrepreneurial environment and always knew that I wanted that path as well, or my version of it. And when I was kind of fast forward, I chose to go to college down in Phoenix, Arizona, and I wasn't learning what I needed to learn to really build a business. And so I started consuming books and podcasts and courses and started bootstrapping a little business while I was in college with the goal of, being able to fully support myself and my team and the business and continue it on from there. And when I was building this little business, at the time it was called Conscious Copy, there was an opportunity where one of my friends that was in college, he reached out to a really successful entrepreneur where he had read a bunch of his books. He found out that he was going to be in Phoenix for a speaking engagement. And he's like, I'm just going to reach out to this guy and see if he would be open to having dinner with a couple of us young, hungry entrepreneurs who are bootstrapping our businesses. And the entrepreneur was Cameron Herold, who wrote the book Vivid Vision. And so I'm at this dinner only, maybe 6 months into building my little business, no team, no reputation, no freaking clue what I'm doing. And Cameron asks me, and for context, he helped build $200 million businesses and is a well-known business speaker worldwide. And so he looks at me and he was like, tell me about the vision of your company. And I was like, the vision? And he's like, yeah, what's your 3-year vision? And I said, I have no clue. Like, I can barely focus 3 months into the future. And he was like, one of the most important things that you can do for your business right now and continued forth is to get really crystal clear on what that long-term vision is. And he said, you got to sit down and you got to craft a vivid vision.
Yeah.
So,
and I want first of all, I want to pause there because entrepreneurs and farmers, you're going to connect with people in our part of the world here, because we have it's actually a very similar area of the world where we live in, where there's just a lot of entrepreneurship in people's blood that started with agriculture and has kind of evolved over time to some different things.
I love it.
And I want to also say that Jennifer's being very humble. So as a in her teen years, she built 2 businesses. I didn't mention this, but built 2 businesses, sold them for 6 and 7 figure exits, and is now, we're going to get to this part of the story, but just to make sure, because I didn't do a great job of the intro, I was a little distracted with some technical issues, but she has not only built businesses and sold them, she is speaking all over the place on this. I referenced, she spoke to a small group of entrepreneurs that we were with, but also she's, just having a major impact, has worked with a ton of entrepreneurs and CEOs to help them craft this. And I would say, Jennifer, my experience with writing out and figuring out vision myself, and from people I talk to, is people just, you started to say this, how important it is, but people do not understand the importance of this and the priority of what this is. And I think business owners, business leaders, corporate leaders, whatever it is, we're good often at setting goals and maybe like, hey, what's our 1-year goal, or maybe even a 3-year goal? And that is tied to a revenue number or a profit number. We are not good at casting vision. That's not how, I don't know if it's just, there's something in how our brains work, but it's a hard thing to do, but it's so, so important. So bring us back to that discussion with Cameron Herold, who book right here, by the way, Vivid Visions is what a lot of Jennifer's work is focused on, but she does some other work too. But tell us more about that, how that started to change your thinking and where you went from there.
Sure. Yeah. So I had this conversation. He said, you got to craft a vivid vision. I didn't really have much to lose. So I sat down and took myself through a process of casting the 3-year vision that I saw for my company at the time, which was called Conscious Copy & Co. It was a marketing agency. And I dreamt up things like build $1 million business. We were working with, I said, I want to work with some of the top thought leaders in personal and business, like Tony Robbins and Dan Sullivan and Joe Polish and Cameron Herold, and a lot of these people that had had a big impact on me and my just business journey of learning things through their podcasts or books. And so I sat down and I wrote it. It felt like I was making shit up, because I was. But then I put it on my wall and I started looking at it every single day. And one of the biggest pieces was I started making decisions by it. And I will, obviously with a lot of hard work, effort, persistence, and also a bit of luck of being right place, right time. I mean, within the first 18 months of that business, of being unknown in the industry, I had started to work with some of the top thought leaders in the world. And fast forward, I mean, that 3-year vision, everything came true. We were working with literally Tony Robbins, Joe Polish, Dan Sullivan, literally like
some
the top
amazing names. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And so
really.
In that process, I became such a big believer of the vivid vision. And in fact, Cameron became a client. He became a good friend. And he reached out to me back in 2016 and said, let's collaborate on this together, because a lot of entrepreneurs sort of understand this process, but they don't know how to do this. They don't know how to gain clarity. They don't know how to communicate the vision. They don't know how to roll it out. And so over the last coming up on 9 years next year, 10 years next year. So I guess 9 years this year, we've helped, Cameron had the book on the process. I built an entire business around it called Vision Driven. And we've helped over 6,000 entrepreneurs at this point, across all different industries, through our one-on-one work, our retreats and events and trainings, to help them really shape their future. At the end of the day, I have the person that I want to be a hero to in the world is the entrepreneur, because that's in my blood, full circle. And I think that entrepreneurs are the ones that are going to really shape this next era of the world that we're in, that is in a big transition. And it's up to the entrepreneur to get really clear on what that vision is, make it a priority, but also have a confidence in being able to share it, roll it out, execute on it, and make sure it happens.
Well, so a couple things. First of all, I love that. And honestly, you're being a visionary right there and just saying like, hey, listen up, entrepreneurs. If that's you, you are going to be part of shaping the world of the next generation. So we're going to come back to that in a little bit of the process. But I want to ask you, so you talked about, okay, so you had this meeting, Cameron Harrod was there, like luck, whatever you want to call it. How good were you at writing your first vision? Because to me right now, if I haven't done this before, maybe I don't believe this yet. I don't think this should be a priority. This feels overwhelming and like a ton of work that might not pay off. So tell me about your first vision. How good was it or not so much?
Totally. Yeah. And I'll actually take one step back and just define a vivid vision and the distinction, because some people may think a vision, and oftentimes that word can seem so esoteric and vague. And so a vivid vision is a 4 to 6 page document that paints a clear, vivid picture of exactly what you want, either your life and or your business to look and feel like 3 years into the future, as if it's already happened. So in the point of us recording this, we'd probably say, it's December 31st, 2028. You usually do year end. And it's like, okay, I'm now describing what my reality looks like in this moment in time in the future. And you want to explain that reality as specific as you can, almost like you're explaining this reality in your day-to-day. If I was to say, what does your business look like? How big is your team? What's your revenue look like? What's the impact that you're making for your clients? What are they saying about you? What's your culture like? How do you know? You'd be able to describe all that. So you're doing the exact same thing in the future. And a key distinction, and then going back to your question, that I learned in the first iterations of writing my own vivid vision and then thousands of entrepreneurs, is generalization kills clarity. And so many entrepreneurs think they're crafting a vision and it's too general. They're not choosing a priority. They're not getting specific. And that's what I did. When I wrote my first vivid vision, I was like, oh, I have these 2 completely unrelated businesses. They're both doing $10 million a year. I have this thing over there, this thing over there. And like, it was like 10 visions that would be like climbing 10 different mountain peaks. And I'm saying I'm going to do all of that in 3 years.
Right.
And that's what I see so many entrepreneurs do. Like, part of this is choosing your priority and sticking to it, which is hard because entrepreneurs see opportunity everywhere.
Well, I think there's so much value too in for anyone, this, whatever your role is. And by the way, you mentioned life vision too, but like whether this is business or personal, and just starting to write things down. And I would say that there's general vision and then vivid vision, right? You kind of made that distinction. And just start. And then like this can be a process. Now, I would of course encourage you to get as vivid as you can, get clear, spend more time on it. But just start writing your thoughts, kind of grouping them. And then if you realize you have 10 peaks to pursue over the next 3 years and not 1 or 2 max, then start to break that down. And once you reduce it, get more clear, more vivid on the ones that you really want to focus on. And I assume too, this is like for me, I told you before the show, I wrote our vivid vision out for our company last summer, about 15 months ago or so. And look, it's coming to life. It's happening. It's very, very exciting. But also, I know if I go back and read it, I would say, well, we've grown from this, we've changed, and I need to redo that, right? So I think we write it for 3 years, but then do we rewrite it every year? Or how should, do we wait 3 years? Once we hit it, do we write it again? How should that work?
Yeah, it's a good question. The way that we encourage entrepreneurs to craft their vivid vision is you set a 3-year vivid vision, and then you refresh that vivid vision every year because, like you mentioned, you gain insights and clarity from actually building it that you didn't have the year prior, but you're not dramatically changing it. Unless the only time that you're dramatically changing it, I used to joke pre-2020 is I said, if there's like a global pandemic or something that completely disrupts your industry where you're like, we got to pivot.
Did you predict a pandemic?
Pardon me?
Did you predict a pandemic?
No, I most definitely not. But I sure said it as a joke. And then I was like, okay, we had so many of our clients come back to us around 2020 and we're like, okay, what do we do with the vision?
Right.
It's actually very important to distinguish the difference between a vision, a strategy, and a plan. So my background, pre-vision driven was copywriting. So words matter. Words literally turn into matter. They're very important. Hence, even with the vivid vision, the words that you use to describe the future. But sometimes people will say, oh yeah, that's my 3-year plan. It's not a plan. Plans are in service of the vision. And the visual that may be helpful is the vision is kind of like the mountain peak. What is the mountain that you are climbing? The plan is the path that you are going to use to get to that vision. It's the how. And then the strategy is determining what path you're going to take to get to that vision. And so many people and entrepreneurs, they'll really get tripped up in thinking they're creating a vision, but really they're creating the strategy or the plan. Or it's super normal that as soon as you start casting the future, all of the questions around the how are going to come up. But it's kind of like if you're booking a cross-country trip and you go to an airline site, the 3 questions it's going to ask you in order for it to be useful is, where are you coming from? Where are you going? And when? And so we're saying 3 years, here's where I'm coming from. You got to determine the where, and then only then will it be able to provide you some options for plans and strategies on how to get there. Same thing is true with your business and your life, but I think that may be helpful for some people because with how fast the world is changing, creating a 3-year plan, I mean, that plans are useful in the thinking process of it, but how often have our plans executed in the same level of clarity as we set them?
Right.
Almost never.
Well, I wanted to take us there next a little bit, and then I want to come back to business. But you just said it again, but like business and in life. So tell us a little bit about creating this vivid vision for our life. Like what does that look like? Yeah.
At Vision Driven, one of the most important things that we believe is that the entrepreneur should cast the vision for their life and then the vision for their business. Not saying that they're in 2 completely different silos, but making sure that the vision for your life, and that looks like your health, your relationships, your business, your personal wealth, your lifestyle, though, is cast. And then you're asking, okay, and what is the business vision from there? And then how do I make sure that they're integrated? Because I see a lot, and I did this myself too, where I cast the vision for my company and it was so clear. And then I built my entire life around my business. And I remember a specific moment. It was, maybe 2017 or 2018. And I was doing some calendar planning with my now husband, and he's also an entrepreneur. And we were sitting down, mapping out our calendars for the rest of the year. And I just broke out into tears because I was looking at my calendar. I'm like, I have no time for anything else. Like every weekend, every day was filled with meetings or business events or whatever it may be. And I saw that, because the only way that I'm keeping score is through my business and revenue. And therefore my calendar reflects that. And it was such a
Yep.
wake up call for me where I was like, I got to get clear on what I want these other areas to look like. If not, my business is going to continue to dictate them. And these areas that I say I really value, like my health and my relationships, they're getting the scraps right now. And so
Right.
that's why I think it's so important to make sure that there's clarity of personal and then the business vision and how do they fit together.
Yeah, I think you used the word integration, alignment. I think for our listeners, it's so important to understand really what are your priorities, where does business fit in, and then just crafting. Look, there's a lot of hard driving people listening to this right now that are trying to get things done, and they're on a mission from a work perspective, and that is all great. But if you don't write out your life vision and what you want out of it and what that looks like in your health, your relationships, your faith, whatever it is for you, if you don't write that out, your hard driving work is going to dictate your schedule and dictate your life, honestly. So, it's not just about, hey, do we have a clear purpose and vision for our work? We have to get everything in alignment or integrated, as you say. So I really like that. I want to
just one
shift
other
gears
piece on that. I just like, because sometimes people may hear integration or alignment and then they'll think, oh, balance. For me, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying, create a life of balance. I think balance is bullshit. Unless you want to be mediocre at everything, then balance is great. I'm saying integration, which means how do I set up my game to where I'm like everything that I'm doing is kind of working towards the greater vision and focus. So, for example, but my husband and I are entrepreneurs. And part of that is, it's very helpful because we are always talking about vision and each other's goals and how can we support each other. But when I'm going on even like vacation, sometimes it's stacked with, I'm doing a speaking engagement there the week before, and then I'm getting together with friends. And getting together with those friends is oftentimes people that I am doing business with, but I also love and appreciate them. So I've like set up and designed my life to where there isn't just these separate silos that don't connect with each other. Everything connects with each other.
Man, balance is bullshit. That might be the episode title. But honestly, I've talked about this and I love it so much because I think it's so important because we have to live a balanced life. Then you're not thinking about how things are intertwined and connect to each other, and you're truly thinking in silos. Balance is BS, right? And you need to be thinking about how all these things impact each other because they do. You can't just stop one and start the other, and that's not how it works. And it reminds me of Jesse Itzler. I saw him talk. I'm sure you know who Jesse Itzler is, but he said life is like a Rubik's Cube, and you got all these complexities, and they're all impacting each other in different ways. But once you figure it out, it becomes simple. And once you can get clear on your vision and how these things to connect to each other, it can become simple over time. So I just thought of that analogy too. So
I love that.
Thanks for the addition because that was you struck a chord with me there. I want to talk about two more things really with our time. One is there's phases to an entrepreneurial journey. And you talked about that a lot. And that was really impactful for me. And then two, and later I want to come back to, okay, we build this vision now for our life and our company, but how do we translate that to our family or our team or whatever it is? So we'll get there. So hang on. But before we do, you kind of went through these stages of your entrepreneurial journey yourself. And I think that's why you can connect with people so well on this, because I think we all go through these phases, and I'm somewhere in there too. So tell us about these phases.
Yeah, this was something that, I call it the 3 stages of entrepreneurial evolution. And so even before, working with the entrepreneurs that we do now, even in my company, Conscious Copy, all we did was work with entrepreneurs. Growing up, it was all I was around. And I've always been really fascinated with patterns. So, and a little more context, with my father, he is an entrepreneur, but specifically brilliant when it comes to tracking cycles, right? Cycles in different industries, cycles in real estate, cycles in commodities. And I've gotten to see for myself, I've been really fascinated of seeing the cycles or the patterns of entrepreneurs. And at this juncture, I haven't met an entrepreneur that hasn't gone through a version of this process. So at this point, like, this is my hypothesis. And unless there's some snowflake that changes it, it's very consistent. And the stages of evolution, they're kind of like psychological stages. Not every entrepreneur gets through to stage 3, and your financial situation isn't connected necessarily to the stage you're in. It's more so how you create in the world. What is your perception around creating in life and creating in business? So stage 1 is where I call it condition driven, where we unconsciously build our life and our business around our insecurities. What does that mean? Maybe as a young kid, there was a lot of instability and a lack of financial security. And there was some sort of decision that you made as a kid that was like, I am never going to have this level of instability or insecurity ever again. I'm going to do whatever it takes in my life to not have this. And so the condition-driven stage is you're really running away from. You're trying to avoid something in your past that created a lot of pain and hurt, but then you build your business in order to protect yourself from that. And so maybe you build the really big real estate empire from being able to protect yourself from that wound. And the fuel here is usually fear. And as I mentioned, avoiding. And it's like a pushing away.
Yep.
You're playing someone else's game, and you're trying to win at someone else's game, usually a parental figure or someone growing up that told you that you couldn't do whatever it was that you wanted to do. Make sense so far?
I think this is absolutely. And I think when I think, I was just listening to a discussion yesterday on like ego. And to me, like, ego is such a misunderstood word, I think, because we all think, oh, if we have ego, we're egotistical, like that this is a horrible thing. And ego is not a good thing. We all have it. And but what you just said is, I think we're working from ego and fear, but we don't recognize it. Like you said, we're playing someone else's game. That's from our ego worrying about, something, even if we're not consciously aware of that, it's happening to us. And that's why working from fear isn't, I don't think, the right way to do this. We have to go through this phase. I went through this phase, right?
So did I. Yeah. And there's a lot of value in it, because fear is a phenomenal fuel when that's all that we can access, because it gets us moving, and anger, it gets us moving away from the situation that we're in. And oftentimes that's all we can access at this given point. But then if we continue to evolve in our awareness, then we'll shift to stage 2, which is achievement driven. And this is where, instead of running away from, we're running towards. And this is where we do cast something in the future, some sort of goal that we want to work towards. This is where we do start to play our own game in life and business, but we set up the game to where we can't win it. I call this like the metaphorical chasing the carrot syndrome. And it's the idea of, once I get there, then I will be happy. Once I have this amount of money in the bank, then I will feel satisfied. But then oftentimes, as soon as we hit that milestone, we decide that's not enough. I'm going to move it. So there's a sense of anxiety that is always at play, because we always feel like wherever we're going is somewhere outside of us. And also the gift of this season is we start to harness in on our gifts and our capabilities, and we're integrating that into our businesses, into our lives. But it's still, it's from this place of like, it's like a hunger to achieve. And this is where, on the tail end of this stage, is where I meet a lot of entrepreneurs, which are the ones that I work with, that are kind of like, man, I thought that everything that I built was going to feel different than this.
Right.
So,
I think the achievement phase, this is why you said the word evolution. You almost have to go through these phases and you start to achieve and start to, you get to the end of this phase, as you said, and you're like, I thought all of my problems would be solved when I achieved things, but there's more, right? There's another phase. So I want to get to that. Before I do, I have a question. This is maybe a very general question, so I don't know if this is the right time, but it's on my mind right now. The whole process of vivid vision is forward-looking future, which is good to think about and plan around, but we can't always be living in the future either. We have to live in the present moment. So this is kind of a total detour given like I'm reading.
No, it actually is. It tees up stage 3 perfectly.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah. So the future is just a psychological tool. That's something that I learned from a friend of mine, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He says the future is just a psychological tool. We can never arrive in the future because all we have as human beings is the now. And when the future arrives, it's just going to be the now. So where a lot of people get tripped up is they'll take their mind outside of the present, and then the attention and energy is funneled there. But the real unlock, and hence the whole name of my company, Vision Driven, is this idea. And into stage 3, which I call, there's stage 1, condition driven, stage 2, achievement driven, stage 3 is vision driven. And this idea that we actually don't go to our vision, we come from our vision. Our vision isn't something out there one day, someday we arrive to. We use a process like vivid vision to take our minds to think about what is the life that I want to create, recognizing that it is going to take time and effort and attention and new decisions. And so we build that model in our minds. And then the next decision is, who do I need to be today? What decisions do I need to make today in order to support the type of life that I want to live? And with stage 3, this is where we start playing our own game. We actually allow ourselves to set ourselves up to win. And the score isn't just something out there, like, okay, the revenue goal in 3 years, but we're setting up the score too. And how can I win on a daily basis?
I love that. I mean, I think if we can get to phase 3, I think, and I'll kind of answer my own question, but given what you said is like future versus present, I think when we're in phase 3, we're very content with who we are, with who we're becoming, with what we're doing, where we have this vision and and I'm probably going to use the wrong words here, while we're moving towards it, but it's pulling us. It's not like we're pushing towards it, maybe is said a different way. I'm trying to paraphrase exactly what you said there. But I think we can just be very content when we're playing our own game, is how I heard that or how I interpret it. And when we can be very content, we're not worried about the future. We're not anxious about the future. We know where we're going, but we can be present in the moment and focus on what we're doing today, because we have the foundation of who we are at the core. So I think these are very much phases. I think if you're in phase 1 or you're in phase 2, that's okay. Like but I also think, I suspect we can accelerate ourselves through these phases by just being aware of them, right? We can start to, at least now what you don't know, and you have to figure out how to get to phase 3. Can we accelerate this? Am I right? Like, how do we accelerate through these phases if we feel like we're in phase 1 or 2?
Yeah, it's a yes, and you can. The way that you do is through awareness, but not just awareness logically, awareness somatically. So and what I mean by that is that it shifts your perspective most permanently. And so it requires that self-reflection, and it's an internal and external process always. So even in crafting the vision, I would say it's like you set a vision, for, again, like say it's your business, and the law of physics proves that as soon as we set something that has a higher energy, a higher frequency, anything that isn't a match to that will come up to be released and transformed. And so that's why I believe that, maybe getting a little off topic here, but the setting a vision is for your life, for your business, is one of the most spiritual practices that we can do, because as soon as we set it, it bubbles up everything in us internally and externally that isn't that. And a lot of people look at that as bad news, but that's actually our curriculum. A mentor, Mary Morrissey, she says the content of our life is the curriculum to our evolution. And so as soon as we set that vision, internally, there will be the beliefs that bubble up that aren't that. And that's actually where we got to get to work. And that's where we can speed up, say, the evolution through those stages. But we can't just check a box. Like, we actually got to go all the way through them and shift the belief permanently.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think, first of all, I love that you said awareness. And, to me, one of the most important skill sets things we can do is build our self-awareness, our awareness. You do that through self-reflection, as you said. And I think, listening to podcasts, reading books, but also journaling, writing these things out. These are all things, like if you're in phase 2, but you're writing about what your vision is, you're going to build a recognition to, okay, I'm in achievement mode, not in, vision driven mode. So, and the other thing that I don't know if you said this in Cincinnati, but I wrote this down. Phase 1, I wrote, and I think I don't have my notes right here, but I wrote down like Phil's interpretation of this. And again, if you said this, that's great, but I don't know if you said it or not. Mm-hmm. Condition driven, I put is personal. Achievement driven, I put is societal. And vision driven, I put is spiritual. And if you can get to that third phase where it just becomes bigger than you, and if you're working for something bigger than you, it's really going to pull you in that direction. You're going to be very content with who you are. So I like that. I want to end with this subject because I think it's very important. So business leaders, we're managing a small team of 5 people. We're the founder of a company that's 100 people, 200 people, whatever it is, wherever we're at. So we build our life vision. We have our business vision, but this is from us. This is ours. How do we cascade this? How do we translate this to motivate our team members? And why is it so important?
Well, first off, I think it's debunking the belief that this vision is yours. I believe, especially when it comes to a business vision, that visionaries, the role of visionaries is that we receive a vision, and then it's our responsibility to discern, is this vision, is this idea worth bringing into the world? And it's kind of like a seed. Like, we receive the seed, and then we got to decide, okay, are we going to plant this? And then if we're going to plant it, this idea, like the acorn, right? The acorn already has the infinite intelligence inside of it in order to become a ginormous oak tree. But that does not mean that every single acorn is going to become a ginormous oak tree, right? It requires the right conditions, resources, sunlight, nutrients, etc., in order to do so. So I actually believe that the role of the visionary, the entrepreneur, is to say, oh, okay, I received this seed. Now it's up to me to plant it. I also received the kind of clear aspects of the clarity around what the potential of this can be. And so it's my job to communicate that potential so that I can gather the right humans, resources, etc., around this idea to give it the very best shot at becoming the oak tree. And the better that the visionary or entrepreneur can do in communicating what that potential is so that others can see it with the same level of clarity, the better shot it has at succeeding. And so really, you're a steward of the vision.
Yeah.
And so you got to
I
take
love
the
that.
ego out of it a little bit and be like, actually, no, it's my responsibility to give this the very best shot. And it's
I
your
love it.
gift to be able to communicate it.
I love that so much because I think that answers the question directly because I think we think about vision. This has to come completely from me and I have to think of it all and create it all. And I felt like that when I wrote our first vivid vision for a company. I mean, I had input. I was like, okay, I have to do this. And the reason I said, there's probably been changes made is now this vision is out there. The team sees it, but they're giving the feedback. They're giving the input. I'm receiving what is their vision for the company? And then we have to, ask questions, be aware of that, discern and decide. And really the acorn analogy, we have to bring it to life. We have to be the ones that, okay, write it down again, talk about it, put the team together, build the strategy and the plan to support the vision. It's not just here's the vision, go do it. It's no, receive it, but package it, put it together, and then build it. Right. So I think that analogy and that explanation, I've not heard that before. That is really clarifying for me. So I appreciate that.
But it's important to be really clear too that, so I get a lot of questions, which is like, how much of the team input do I get on the vision? And it's such a fine line because as the visionary, your responsibility is the vision. That's part of your role. Now, can you take insight? Absolutely. But as you just mentioned, Phil, it's up to you to discern and decide, is this actually going to be supportive to the overarching vision? For example, if Steve Jobs went and was looking for approval from everybody on, hey, is the iPhone a worthy and good idea? Most people would probably tell him, no, that's the worst idea. You'd need buttons on a phone, right? And why are you trying to combine all of these things, internet and apps and all the things into a phone? They would have probably told him his vision that it's not a good vision. But he had so much belief in it that he was unwavering in it. And it's, again, that's where it's a fine line because sometimes, yes, the ideas and insights from other people can serve and be supportive, but sometimes it could actually derail you and get you off track. And so that's where the self-mastery of the entrepreneur comes into place to be able to discern.
Well, and what I want to just say, like what I want to emphasize to everyone listening is you have to do this work. This work is so, so important for your life, for your business, for your team. Cast the vision, listen, but cast the vision and discern. It is, your team will explode with growth in a good way, even if it's not financial or business growth, just personal growth. But it is so, so important work. And we're going to come back to Jennifer, like how she can help with this and her website and stuff here in a second. But before we do, and by the way, I want to go back to kind of a little bit of Jennifer's vision statement here is if you're an entrepreneur or a business leader, like business is a mechanism to have a phenomenal impact. And she said that in a better or smoother way than me, but it's like going to be the lifeblood and it's going to shape what our world looks like for the next 5, 10, 15, 50 years, whatever it is. So your role in this is important. And it's not for your personal success or your societal success, but it's bigger than that. And I just encourage you to spend time on this. It's so, so important. Jennifer, I want to ask you one more question. Before then I'll kind of ask you how people can find out more about you, but you're having an impact. You have an aspirational vision yourself. How does what you do, how does it make you feel?
Like I'm doing what I'm meant to do. Like I have a knowing that this is the work that I'm here to do in the world. And it feels really satisfying.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that goes back to you could just feel the contentment in that, right? You're thinking you have a vision, but you're just super content with who you are and what you're doing. And I appreciate that so much. Jennifer, this has been really helpful for me. There's 2 or 3 things like I'm doing this wrong. I have to change this. I have to work on this. So I appreciate you've been extremely helpful to me. For our listeners, I know you've been really helpful to them as well. How can they find out more about you?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about how to clarify the vision, communicate it, create it, you could just go to visiondrivenglobal.com, visiondrivenglobal.com. And There's info. There's a free resource on there called the Vivid Vision Mind Map that will get you started. Then there's additional info on our retreats, workshops, one-on-one work, all of it.
Awesome. We will definitely get that in the show notes. And I would tell you, if you're listening, create this for yourself. And if your company, if your boss, if your founder, if they don't have it, then send them this episode and say, hey, we have to do this. How can I help? But really, you can give them an assignment as well. So again, I appreciate the sincerity, the authenticity of this discussion. This has been really helpful for me. Jennifer, thanks so much for the Purpose Matrix. Signing off.